Welcome. You are about to take an extraordinary journey, a brief video trip through a part of Brooklyn that speaks to the very future of Brooklyn. The area on Atlantic Avenue between the new Atlantic Yards Arena and Our Lady of Loreto Church. This is Arthur Piccolo from the Committee to Save Our Lady of Loreto Church. Charles Piazza, the chairman of the committee, and myself, during May, took a car ride along the stretch of Atlantic Avenue from Flatbush and Atlantic all the way down Atlantic Avenue past Eastern Parkway to Our Lady of Loreto Church, and then came back in the opposite direction on Atlantic Avenue. The trip each way, almost exactly 3 miles. The point of this journey, as you come with us on this trip along Atlantic Avenue, is to prove the vast potential that exists, the undeveloped potential that exists along Atlantic Avenue, what we call the Atlantic Avenue Corridor, from what will soon be the new Atlantic Yards Arena, a powerful draw for Brooklyn and beyond, and stretching that 3 miles along Atlantic Avenue, going east to Our Lady of Loreto Church, in which Our Lady of Loreto Church, much smaller than the Atlantic Yards Arena, of course, but what those of us with a particular vision see and are working towards, Our Lady of Loreto Church becoming a high-quality 21st century arts and culture center, every bit as sophisticated in its own way as will be the Atlantic Yards Arena, but retaining the church itself, retaining and preserving the church as it stood 100 years ago when this was the heart of the Italian immigrant community. As we're traveling along, you're seeing a combination. Right now, you're seeing a new development taking place, a significant new building being put up on Atlantic Avenue. There's a modest amount of activity on Atlantic Avenue, but as you watch this, you see more than anything else, Atlantic Avenue is characterized to date, in our time, by a lack of development. Many underutilized and unutilized buildings, plenty of open areas that have not been developed at all. The most noticeable feature of all, you'll see as we travel down Atlantic Avenue towards Our Lady of Loreto Church, and then back again towards Atlantic and Flatbush, is the lack of pedestrians on the avenue. We drove this stretch on a midday, on a weekday afternoon, and along Atlantic Avenue itself, we counted at most 12, at most a dozen people actually walking on Atlantic Avenue. What's so significant about that, of course, is that any vibrant, exciting avenue that is really the core of a community has a tremendous amount of foot traffic. The Atlantic Avenue, those of us involved in Vision, will have a tremendous amount of foot traffic on it, in addition to the fact that there is already quite a bit of vehicular traffic on the stretch of Atlantic Avenue. We have passed Eastern Parkway. We are about now to turn right to Our Lady of Loreto, right off of Atlantic Avenue. Here we are at Our Lady of Loreto. Envision Our Lady of Loreto Church, fully restored outside and in, and becoming a mecca for the Brownsville, East New York, Ocean Hill community, where the highest quality events will take place inside the restored Our Lady of Loreto Church, as well as it's serving as an outstanding community center for localized activities as well. We have turned around now. We are headed west. On the north side of Atlantic Avenue, you'll see a slightly different character to the avenue, but not tremendously so. But there are some differences. But still, on the north side, you will see the same amount of potential. You'll see many underdeveloped, undeveloped, and also empty lots along the avenue. The entire stretch just speaks to the potential of the future of this area of Brooklyn. And as I noted earlier, you see the literally complete lack of pedestrian activity along Atlantic Avenue, 3 miles each way between the new Atlantic Yard Center and Our Lady of Church. We are now headed back towards Atlantic and Flatbush and where the Atlantic Yards Arena will be. You see on this side some additional housing, modern housing. You see some parkland. There are some athletic fields along this stretch that we don't have on the other side. There's a public park along this part of Atlantic Avenue. You'll see to a left, a portion of the Long Island Railroad is above ground. Here on the right side, we have the most notable facility on Atlantic Avenue, which is a fairly large medical center. And now as we continue along, you see these structures. Some certainly would be preserved. Others, though, do not have the long-term character you would expect on a revitalized Atlantic Avenue. As we continue in this direction, and you see again on our right, a lot of underutilized type warehouse space, much of it unused at all. We have the one Long Island Railroad station along this stretch, which we just passed. Now, in the distance on the left, and we passed it closer coming in the other direction, is the massive Atlantic Avenue Armory, a existing building where you can allow your imagination in terms of the potential of that building. But even more new construction. Office buildings along this stretch of Atlantic Avenue, department stores along this stretch of Atlantic Avenue, schools and universities along this stretch of Atlantic Avenue, more outstanding but affordable housing along this stretch of Atlantic Avenue, theaters along this stretch of Atlantic Avenue, restaurants along this stretch of Atlantic Avenue, even an outdoor arena, not massive but large enough to accommodate first-class football and soccer games, potentially along this stretch of Atlantic Avenue. A combination of activities that can make this portion of Atlantic Avenue one of the great avenues of the 21st century, not only for Brooklyn, but for the entire city, and characterized by the Atlantic Yards Arena at one end and Our Lady of Loreto Church 3 miles to the east. And here we end this complete loop, this wonderful journey about the potential of this stretch of Atlantic Avenue that stretches from Atlantic and Flatbush, the new Atlantic Yards Arena, to a revitalized, restored Our Lady of Loreto Church. This is Arthur Piccolo for the Committee to Save Our Lady of Loreto Church.